The restaurant was louder than usual that night, the clinking of cutlery mixing with bursts of laughter and low music. Ethan Miller sat near the window, his shoulders slightly hunched, eyes flicking between his phone and the small table where his 8-year-old daughter Lily sat coloring quietly. It was their monthly tradition. Cheap pasta, shared dessert, and pretending for one evening that life wasn't a constant balancing act of bills, school runs, and exhaustion. Ethan was a single dad, widowed 3 years ago, working double shifts as a delivery supervisor just to keep their small apartment afloat. Dinner out was a rare luxury, saved for special moments. Lily smiled as she showed him her drawing, and Ethan smiled back, even though his mind was already calculating how much was left on his card. That was when he noticed the woman 2 tables away. She sat alone, elegant but not flashy, wearing a simple navy dress and a tired expression that didn't match the refined surroundings. A half-eaten plate sat in front of her, and a glass of wine trembled slightly in her hand. At first, Ethan thought nothing of it, until the glass slipped, shattering on the floor. The sound was sharp enough to silence nearby conversations. The woman froze, her face draining of color. She tried to stand, but her knees buckled. Before the staff could react, Ethan was already on his feet. "Lily, stay here," he said gently. He crossed the room just in time to catch the woman as she collapsed. Her body was light, trembling, and her breathing shallow. People stared. Someone whispered. The waiter hovered nervously. "I think she's going to faint," Ethan said calmly, easing her into a chair. He'd learned to stay calm after years of handling emergencies alone. "Does anyone know her?" No one answered. Ethan loosened the scarf around her neck and asked for water. When the waiter returned, Ethan held the glass to her lips. Her eyes fluttered open, confused and glassy. "You're okay," he said softly. "Just breathe." She nodded weakly, embarrassed tears welling up. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause a scene." "It happens," Ethan replied. "Have you eaten much today?" She shook her head. The manager offered to call an ambulance, but the woman insisted she was fine, just overwhelmed and lightheaded. After a few minutes, color returned to her face. She thanked Ethan repeatedly, her voice steadying. "I'm Claire," she said. "Ethan." She glanced toward Lily, who was watching anxiously from the table. "Your daughter." "Yes. You're a good father," Claire said, with a smile that seemed both grateful and sad. They spoke only briefly after that. Claire insisted on paying for the broken glass and Ethan returned to Lily, who wrapped her arms around him. "You saved her, Daddy," Lily whispered. Ethan smiled. Anyone would have helped. Claire left soon after, offering one last thankful look over her shoulder. Ethan assumed that was the end of it, a small act of kindness, soon forgotten. He was wrong. 3 days later, a sleek black luxury car pulled up in front of Ethan's apartment building. The contrast was so stark that neighbors peeked through curtains. A sharply dressed man stepped out, tall, composed, wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly rent. He rang Ethan's doorbell. Ethan opened the door cautiously, Lily peeking from behind his leg. "Yes, Mr. Ethan Miller," the man asked politely. "My name is Robert Hayes. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Claire Whitmore." Ethan frowned. "The woman from the restaurant?" "Yes." Robert handed him an envelope, thick and cream-colored. Inside was a handwritten note. "Ethan, you didn't just save me from fainting that night. You saved me from something much darker. I owe you more than a thank you. Please allow my driver to explain." "Claire." Ethan looked up, confused. "Explain what?" Robert smiled slightly. "Ms. Whitmore is particular about privacy. But I can tell you this, she is the CEO and majority shareholder of Whitmore Holdings." Ethan blinked. "The Whitmore Holdings, the global investment firm." Robert nodded. "She's a billionaire." Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "You've got the wrong guy." "No, sir," Robert said gently. "You're exactly the right one." Inside the apartment, Robert explained everything. Claire had been under immense pressure, corporate battles, betrayal from trusted partners, and relentless public scrutiny. That night at dinner was meant to be her first quiet evening alone in months. She hadn't eaten all day, barely slept, and finally, her body gave in. "She told me," Robert said, "that when she collapsed, she felt invisible. Like no one saw her as human anymore. Until you." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. I just helped. That's precisely why she was moved, Robert replied. Robert slid another paper across the table, a check. Ethan stared at the number. It was more money than he'd seen in his entire life. I can't accept this, he said immediately. Robert expected resistance. Ms. Whitmore anticipated that, he said. This isn't charity, it's gratitude, and an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? She would like to meet you. Properly. A week later, Ethan stood in a glass-walled office overlooking the city skyline, wearing the only suit he owned. Lily sat beside him, swinging her legs nervously. The door opened, and Claire stepped in. She looked different, confident, radiant, powerful. But when her eyes met Ethan's, the guarded edge softened. You came, she said. You asked, Ethan replied. They talked for hours. About life. About loss. About pressure and loneliness on opposite ends of society. Claire listened. Truly listened. As Ethan spoke about raising Lily alone, about fear, about doing the right thing even when it's hard. You didn't know who I was, Claire said quietly. You didn't hesitate. I didn't need to know, Ethan answered. You were someone who needed help. Something changed between them then. Claire didn't offer him money again. Instead, she offered support, quietly. Lily was enrolled in a top school. Ethan was offered a management position at one of Claire's logistics subsidiaries, not a favor, but a job he was qualified for. Months passed. The media never knew. There were no headlines, no scandals. Just two people whose lives crossed at the right moment. One evening, Ethan and Lily were back at the same restaurant. Claire joined them, laughing freely this time, no shadows behind her smile. Lily looked at Claire and said, My daddy says helping people is free. Claire smiled, eyes shining. Your daddy is right. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness echo the loudest. And sometimes, saving someone doesn't mean changing their life forever, it means reminding them they still matter. And for Ethan, that night wasn't about meeting a billionaire. It was about being human. And that made all the difference. The restaurant was louder than usual that night.